like to welcome you back to the Day of the Lord video series. Today we're doing video number 22, and it's called Another Look at the Seven Trumpets. Now, we've done a number of videos on the seven trumpets, but I've had a number of questions, and I want to see if I can address them in this video here. So the seven trumpets are found in the book of Revelation, and they're considered by most people the most difficult prophecies in the Bible to understand. I want you to think about this. It's my guess that most likely you have never heard a sermon in your church on the seven trumpets, and that you probably couldn't tell me the importance of the seven trumpets. This is very typical of most churches. Now, I want to have a little cautionary note here as we get going into this study. See this little triangle here? This kind of indicates all the prior videos that I've done leading up to this one. There's 21 prior videos. And so this study, which is number 22, builds on the prior 21 videos. So if you haven't had a chance to see the prior ones, this one was going to be quite confusing to you. So you may want to watch it, and then this may give you some interest to look at the others. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start off with a short history on the seven trumpets. There are two general views regarding the seven trumpets that most Bible students adhere to. Some students place the seven trumpets in the past, in history, and they're called historicists, while other Bible students place the seven trumpets in the future, and they're called futurists. Well, I want to let you know that I'm neither one. You can't put me in a box on either one of these. The Bible clearly teaches that the seven trumpets will sound before probation on earth ends, before it closes. This is fairly well agreed upon amongst most Bible students. So the seven trumpets are earth's final call to repentance by God. So each of the first six trumpets bring a plague with it, whereas the seventh trumpet sounding indicates that the battle for man's soul is over and God's kingdom is announced. So we'll go through that here. This is a little bit dry, some of this study, because we're going to get into some history here. So what do some say the seven trumpets represent? Well, the explanation of the seven trumpets are varied in that there is no single definitive explanation. I would say this is true with any church. I've never found any church that has a single definitive explanation on the seven trumpets. Everyone seems to have their own private interpretation as it goes. And if you just go ahead on the internet or on YouTube and search for the seven trumpets, you'll find all kinds of crazy interpretations on what they mean. So in the past, there were many Bible students that placed the seven trumpets in the historicist camp of prophetic interpretation, but that trend is on the decline. But I am going to go ahead and give an overview of the historicist beliefs here as the best I can, so we're going to delve into that here. So the historicists say that the seven trumpet events unfold something like this. So I've tried to make this as concise as I can and to do a little legwork for you. So here's the first trumpet, and this is God's judgment upon the Romans by the Goths. There is an alternate view on the first trumpet in that the 70 AD destruction of Jerusalem is depicted by some people. Okay, the second trumpet is the assault upon the Roman Empire by the Vandals. The third trumpet is the assault on the Roman Empire by the Huns. The fourth attack is upon the Roman Empire by the Herulites. So these first four trumpet judgments that the historicists believe, these have been around for quite a while. I believe they originated in some of the churches in England, but they were pretty much adopted or agreed to by the early fundamentalists in the U.S. in the 1800s. Okay, the fifth trumpet is the rise and progress of Islam on Christian nations. The sixth is the Ottoman Empire reigns and the rise of end-time Babylon. Finally, the seventh trumpet is Earth's final events are set in motion and the mystery of God is finished. So this in a nutshell are the seven trumpets, what they mean as far as historicists are concerned. I'm going to go into this a little more detail here. But you can see that the first six trumpets are heavily weighted in the past. They've already occurred. They're in the past. Don't worry about them. And what's coming up is the seventh trumpet. That's the only one you have to worry about. Some people say it's in the future or we're in the middle of it. But the main thing here I want you to remember is that the first six trumpets already occurred in the past. That's not what I believe, but that's what the historicist viewpoint is. Okay, we're going to go take a little more detailed look at the historicist viewpoint on each one of these trumpets. Now you got to stay with me because this is a bit dry. So the first trumpet is God's judgment upon Rome. So the hail and fire mingled with blood, that's in Revelation, is said by some to symbolize war and bloodshed. And you can look this up in Ezekiel and Revelation, and that's where they get this definition. Trees and grass depict people. So they believe that God sent the barbaric Goths from the north to fall upon Rome as a plague of hail and to split the blood of her people and set her proud cities on fire. The Goths were headed by their general Alaric, and they attacked the Romans in AD 396 to 419. They sacked and pillaged the city of Rome in AD 410. The term a third part indicates that a large portion would be affected, but not all. In this case, this applies to Rome. So you have to ask yourself, what in the Bible points the first trumpet to the barbaric Goths? I don't think there's anything. Okay, the second trumpet is the assault on the Roman Empire by the Vandals. So in the Bible, Revelation, it talks about the mountain. The mountain in the second trumpet. The mountain cast into the sea is said by some to depict a violent invasion of a civilized area. How they get that, I don't know. So the Vandals, led by Generic, their king, invaded Rome from Africa and the Mediterranean Sea between AD 428 and 468. So like a roaring volcano thrown into the sea, their sack of Rome in 455 culminated in the unrestrained burning and pillaging of the city and was so dreadful that the word vandalism remains a term for malicious and destruction of property. So they believe that the second trumpet was this event that they found in history, and they applied it to the second trumpet. All right, the third trumpet is a similar thing. This is a great star that fell from heaven, is said to be by some that to be symbolic, not literal, symbolic of a great leader, and the worm and the word wormwood is a bitter medical plant that's poisonous in large doses, which it is. And the leader that appears as a sudden blazing star bringing such bitterness upon Rome was Alaric, the ruler of the Huns. And he was called the Scourge of God. With his hordes of barbarian horsemen, they raped and murdered and turned the city after city into smoldering ruins without mercy. So somehow we're supposed to believe that the third trumpet was this depiction here. Okay, the fourth trumpet talks about a third of the sun and the moon and the stars were smitten with darkness. So it is said by some that this represents the removal of Western Rome's leaders. So in AD 476, the king of the Herlites disposed the Western Roman emperor, bringing an end to the Western Roman Empire. So from then on, the Pope was the dominating figure in Western Europe. So here again, somebody plucked this fact of history out and applied it to the fourth trumpet. Okay, let's look at the fifth trumpet. So it is said by some, I guess I'm a little bit nervous that somebody will say these are my views. So there's some people that believe this. So it's said by some that the fifth and sixth trumpets represent the rise and progress of Islam. So Islamic believers are followers of its founder, Muhammad, and they originated around 612. And it talks about a star in the fifth trumpet. So a star is said to represent a leader and is identified by some as Muhammad. And the bottomless pit is to represent a desolate and an empty place. And some believe it refers to the vast, desolate wasteland of present-day Saudi Arabia, from which the smoke of Islam issued forth, darkening the light of Christianity in the sands that come under their control. The sixth trumpet. The second woe's four angels is said to be by some to be the four sultans of the Turkish Ottoman Empire that moved against the Western world. The Byzantine Empire held the Muslims in check so that when the Muslims were no longer a threat, the Ottoman Empire turned its attention to papal-dominated Europe. So Europe is said to be by some to represent the target of the sixth trumpet. The Islamic wars are said to have played a key role in helping Protestantism strive by diverting the attention of the papal persecution long enough to help it become established. So this was the sixth trumpet. There's more to the sixth trumpet. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, day, and a month, and a year, for to slay, that is to kill, a third part of men. So the time set forth here is said by some to represent exactly 391 years and 15 days. I'm going to show you how this is built up here in a second. That's 360, 31, and 1/24 of a year. So which indicates that the time remaining for the Ottoman Empire to do its work. So from the end of the fifth trumpet, which was calculated by some to be 1449, exactly 39 years later and 15 days, to 1840. 1840, this is a memorable date. In that year, the Ottoman Empire would no longer protect itself and accepted the protection of the four European nations, effectively ceasing as an independent power. So this is what people believe happened at the sixth trumpet. So let me pause for a moment here and expand on the historicist's view on the fifth and sixth trumpet. This should be pretty enlightening to you. So in the fifth trumpet, the Bible says that their power was to hurt men for 5 months. 5 months. Well, what does that mean? What do they think that means? This quote that I'm going to show you is from the 7 trumpets, an exposition of the 7 trumpets of Revelation, chapters 8 and 9. This is the Steam Press Publishing Association, Battle Creek, Michigan. This was published in 1875. Okay, so what does it say? I pulled this out of this book. 5 months, that is 150 years, commencing or starting at July 27th, 1299. The 150 years reached to 1449. This date's going to be important because this is the start of the 6th trumpet. You'll see this in a minute. So during the whole period, the Turks were engaged in an almost perpetual warfare with the Greek Empire, but yet without conquering it. They seized upon and held several of the Greek provinces, but still Greek independence was maintained in Constantinople. But in 1449, the termination of the 150 years, a change came. So how did they get this 150 years? I'm going to show you here. So this was the start. Remember I said it started from 1299, and this trumpet had tormented people for 5 months. So using the formula that they used at the time, where 1 day equals a year, and each month has 30 days in it, so that's 150 days. 5 times 3 is 150. So that's 150 years. So starting with 1299, that was the commencing address, went 150 years to 1499. Okay, this is a key text. And the 4 angels, which were prepared for an hour, day, and month, and year, to slay the third part of men. This is Revelation 9:15. So let's see what that means. So in the year 1840, Dr. Josiah Litch, he was one of the leading ministers. He was preaching about the second advent. They thought Christ would come back imminently. So he published an exposition on Revelation 9, predicting the exact date of the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Wow, that was amazing for him to do that. So according to his calculations, this power was to be overthrown in AD 1840, and only a few days previous to its accomplishment, he wrote this. It says, allowing for the first period, that's the 150 years that I just told you about, that's the 5 months of the 5th trumpet. So allowing for the first period to have been exactly fulfilled before the ascent of the throne with the permission of the Turks, and that the 391 years and 15 days commencing at the close of the first period, it will lead to the 11th of August, 1840, and that's when the Ottoman power in Constantinople may be expected to be broken. So he wrote this in the Signs of the Times in the Expositor of Prophecy on August 1st, 1840. You can look this up on the internet if you want, and you can find this document quite easily. So what do we have here? We have the 5th trumpet commencing in 1299, going 150 years according to the 5 month, 1 day equal a year, terminating in 1449, and then the 391 years and 15 days starting exactly in 1449 and going forward to 1840. This is what he predicted. So he was an honest person. He was a preacher, seeker of the truth, and he relied upon the common understanding in its day that the 5th trumpet had ended in 1449. So the dates for the 5 months were determined using the following logic. Well, many Bible prophecy students of his day used a 1 day equal 1 year rule, calculating all prophetic Bible dates using that. So 5 months would be 5 times 30 days per month equal 150 days equals 150 years. So the winding trail that I call this, taken by the historicist believers that lead to the 1449 date as the ending year for the 150 years, is very convoluted, and it's really beyond the scope of a short study here like I'm giving you. But you can follow it if you want. You can search this on the internet, but it's very complicated to follow, and I just don't believe it. So he reached his conclusion on the August 11th day through a faulty translation of the scripture. Now, this is what the King James says. I got to read this carefully. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third of men. Revelation 9:15. So Dr. Litch applied the day-year principle to this verse and derived 391 years, 15 days out of this. But the translation should have read like this. This is a modern translation. It's more accurate. And the 4 angels who had been kept ready for this very hour, day, month, and year were released to kill a third of mankind. Who had been kept ready is different than had been prepared for this time. They've been kept ready. Their engines were revved up, but their foot was on the brake. They were kept ready for this point. So Greek scholars around the world today widely agree that the syntax of Revelation 9:15 points to a specific point in time and is therefore punctiliar. It's a fancy word meaning a specific point in time. So the phrase should not be regarded as the sum of the chronological units of time. In other words, the 6th trumpet says nothing about 391 years and 15 days. So how did he calculate this? So he had an hour, a day, month, and year. So an hour, well, if there's 360 days in a year, 24 hours in a day, so an hour would be 1/24th of a year. If 1 day equals a year, 1 hour is 1/24th of a year. So that's where he gets the 15 days. A day equals a year. A month is 30 days, 30 years. A year is 360 days, 360 years. You add all that up, you get 391 years and 15 days. Pretty straightforward. So where did he go wrong with his calculations? Today's Bible scholars are in strong agreement that this Bible text refers to a specific point in time and not a length of time. So what does this mean here? Let's put a picture up here. A length of time would be this: starting point, a length of time, and an ending point. This is what he translated it to: 391 years, 15 days. But it means a specific point in time. Those 4 angels were held back by God until the specific point in time that God has determined occurs. Then they're going to be let loose. So this is totally wrong. So the August 11, 1840 date was completely wrong. And he made some other problem. He had some other problems too. In the August 11th, 1840 date, the calendar was changed, and he did not account for that. So Pope Gregory VIII removed 10 days from the Julian calendar and reset the calendar with respect to the sun. So his August 11th date should have been adjusted to August 21st. And there was absolutely nothing of historical consequence that occurred on that date. So not only was his calculation based on a wrong rule, he didn't take into account that 10 days were removed from the calendar either. Here's a little bit of history. In 1783 to 1914, the boundaries of the Ottoman Empire were increasingly reduced through a series of defeats. The wars raged against the Sultan of Turkey in 1840 ended in 1841 without significant changes in territory. During World War I, Turkey allied with Germany and lost even more territory. Most historians today agree that the Ottoman Empire ended during World War I. In 1923, the Grand National Assembly of Turkey proclaimed Turkey to be a republic, and Turkey remains a sovereign nation to this day. History does not validate the Ottoman Empire fell on August 11th, 1840. So, what do I think of the fifth and sixth trumpet? Well, they're both bogus, their definition of what happened. Both of them are bogus, and both of them are in error. Sorry. But you know what? Final thoughts on Mr. Leach. In 1873, 35 years later, he published a book titled A Complete Harmony of Daniel and the Apocalypse. You can see who it's published by here if you want to look it up. And to his credit, he indicated that his previous views on the seven trumpets had been wrong. He admitted he was wrong. So after the failure of Jesus to return in 1843 or 1844, he went back to the Bible to see where he was wrong. He found some answers and became convinced that the seven trumpets would be seven future events, and that included meteoric firestorm that burns up a third of the earth and 2 civilizations threatened with asteroid impacts. So he concluded that the seven trumpets would take place just before the second coming. So I think he was a pretty good guy. He was really studying his history and studying his Bible. Okay, let's move on to the seventh trumpet. In the early 1800s, there were many Bible students around the world who were convinced that Jesus would soon return. Many of them saw in the prophecies of the 2,300 years of Daniel 8 a prediction that Christ would come very soon to cleanse the earth by fire. That's what they believed. The most influential of these groups, they were called Millerites, were led by William Miller. And they determined that 1844, actually they first determined 1843, but then they corrected it to 1844, was the year that Jesus would return to earth. However, the Millerites had the misconception that the sanctuary to be cleansed represented the earth. When Jesus did not return at the appointed time, they experienced what they called a bitter disappointment. They later determined that the sanctuary to be cleansed was not the earthly sanctuary, but it was the heavenly sanctuary. So in addition, the Millerites believed that Josiah Leach's prediction that the Ottoman Empire would fall on August 11th, 1840. They were convinced that he was right. And they were convinced that this event was the sounding of the sixth trumpet. This is critical for what the Millerites thought the seventh trumpet meant. So they thought all the prior 6 trumpets had occurred, had blown. So what did the Millerites think after this? So the bottom line is this. The Millerites came to the conclusion that the seventh trumpet sounded in 1844 and that the Day of Atonement had occurred in heaven on that day and in the year 1843, and then they later corrected this to 1844. Now this little pamphlet here, or actually it's a poster, I guess you would call it. You can't read it. This is very fine. But if you ever have a chance to take a look at this, if you'll see these the Ottoman Empire and Mohammed, and so this is what they believed back in this time frame. They believed that the prophecy of the fifth and sixth trumpet had blown, and they were in the past. So here's why I feel the historicist explanation for the seven trumpets are in gross error. First off, the so-called flow of Christian history explanation doesn't shed any light on the activities in the heavenly sanctuary as described in the book of Revelation. Nothing. The flow of Christian history is something somebody dreamed up. There are no spiritual aspects to these explanations whatsoever. Nothing. There are no eternal redemptive truths shown or demonstrated by any of these explanations. These are little tidbits that they found. These ancient historical events seem to be just plucked out of history's thin ear to fit someone's preconceived thinking on how they fit the seven trumpets. To me, I could pick 6 or 7 other different things and say they were the seven trumpets. There's no correlation here. And finally, these explanations don't seem to have any rational written set of rules to validate their results. They're just thrown out there for you to take it or leave it. There's nothing they can prove that these are the seven trumpets. And when you look at the errors that they made in the 5th and the 6th trumpet, it's totally bogus. So what are we to do? So how can we piece together the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation? Well, this is like a 1,000-piece puzzle. You know, it's not easy to solve a puzzle when you don't know what the picture looks like. If you're just going to have to try to do your best to put all these little pieces together, that's one tough job. So I think piecing together the prophetic events in Daniel and Revelation is something like solving a 1,000-piece puzzle without you knowing what the completed picture looks like. You're just flying blind. So what we need is a big picture to aid in fitting the pieces together. So in my humble ability here, I'm going to show you one. See what you think. So what I want to do is start with some common ground event that we can build up the big picture from that point. So let's see if we can find something that's a common ground. So I always like to have a little timeline here. Time progresses. So what's the common thing that we can agree upon? Well, at some point in the future, there will be a second coming of Christ. And sometime before that, probation will end on earth. Everyone that's going to be saved will be saved. Everyone that's going to be lost will be lost. So there'll be a point in time when this occurs. And this is, there's a number of good Bible texts that support this. This one on the 10 virgins in Matthew 25, it says, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins. 5 were foolish, 5 were wise. And all the virgins, everybody, the wise ones and the dumb ones, they trimmed their lamps. And the foolish ones said to the wise ones, give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out. So what did the wise ones say? No. Then the foolish ones went out to buy oil, and the bridegroom, that's Jesus, arrived. So the virgins who were ready went in with him, with Jesus, to the wedding banquet. And the door was shut. Probation had closed for the foolish virgins. So later the foolish virgins said, Lord, open the door for us. But Jesus replied, I don't know you. So there will be a time when probation is over, when the door will be shut and no one else will be able to be saved. Here's another text in Revelation 22. This is Jesus. It says, let the one who does wrong continue to do wrong. Let the vile person continue to be vile. Let the one who does right continue to do right. And let the holy person continue to be holy. And there's other texts we could find, but I think you will agree that there will be a point where probation ends. Okay, the first date here I want to put up, 1798. That's the courtroom session in heaven. So I'm going to come back to these here. I want to put them all up so you can see the big picture. Then I'll show you all the Bible text. Second thing, 1844. All the dead are judged in heaven. Then we start the 1335 days. That's going to start here at some point in time and go on for 1335 days, and it's going to terminate with the second coming. During this time, for exactly 1260 days, the 144 prophets will speak for Jesus on earth. And during this 1260 days, everyone on earth, all the living people on earth, will be tested. And while they're being tested, the people that are alive, the judgment in heaven for the dead will continue on. And people that die during this period here, that don't finish their testing, they will be judged with the other dead. So during this 1260 days, the 7 trumpets, or the 7 first plagues, will occur. These are God's tool that he's going to use to test the living. And right at the end of the 1260 days, the 144,000 will lie dead in the street for 3.5 days. They're going to be dead. They're going to die. They're going to be killed. As soon as probation ends, the 7 last plagues will occur. They'll last about 70 days. 7 plagues. Okay, let's look at this first one, 1798. This is when the courtroom session in heaven started. And it says, as I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days, that's God the Father, took his seat, and the court was seated, and the books were open. These are the books of records on each one of us. The books were open. It's not the book of life. These are the books of records. So Daniel 7:22, we continue, until the Ancient of Days, that's God the Father, he pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people, and it ended their persecution. So that occurred in 1798. And the 1260 years of persecution, that's the time, times, and half a time in that prophecy. I have a video on this you should need to look at if you haven't seen it. The 1844 date, we read this in Daniel 8. It says, he, that's the angel, said to me, I will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. An evening and morning, what is that? What does it say in Genesis? First the evening came, and then the morning, the dark, then the light. So 2,300 days, or evenings and morning, or 2,300 days, or 2,300 years. Then the sanctuary will be cleansed. That's this part right here. When all the dead are, all the lives of the dead people, both the good and the bad, they're going to be reviewed by God. Okay, so during this 1335 days, the trumpets will sound. And when the Lamb, that's Jesus, opened the 4th seal, and its rider was given power over 1/4 of the earth, that's 25% of the earth's population, to kill by sword, famine, plague, and the wild beasts of earth. So these first 4 trumpets, they are given power by God to kill 25% of the earth. We also read in Revelation 7, it says, I saw 4 angels with the 4 first trumpets standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth. And then another angel called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm the earth. And what were these four angels told? They were told, do not harm the land, do not harm the sea, do not harm the trees until we put a seal on the 144,000. Now these are critical linkage text. Most Bible students don't understand this linkage. So let's take a look at it a little bit again here. I've covered this in other videos. I just want to quickly show you this again. So the fourth seal was opened. The seven angels were given seven trumpets. The angels were told to wait until what? They were wait until the 144 are selected. As soon as they were selected and sealed, it's declared no more delay. The censer is going to be cast down, and the seven trumpets are released to sound. We read in Revelation 6, 7, and 8, when the Lamb, that's Jesus, opened the sixth seal, and there before me was a pale horse, and its rider was named Death and Hades, and was followed close behind him. And they, that's the seven angels, were given power over 1/4 of the earth to kill by sword, famine, plague, and the wild beasts of the earth. Revelation 8. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and the seven trumpets were given them. So we got to see how all these texts fit together. After this, I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth to prevent any winds from blowing on the land, the sea, and the trees. Then I saw another angel. He called out in a loud voice to the four angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Wait, do not harm the land and the sea and the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. So let's look at what the first four trumpets are. Revelation 8. The first angel burned up trees and the green grasses. Second angel was like threw a huge mountain into the sea, then it turned to blood. Third angel, a great star, turned the waters bitter. The fourth angel turned the day and the night to darkness without light. So you can see that these four angels here were prevented from blowing on the land, the sea, and the trees. The trees, the grass, the seas, trees, the sea. So you can see these are really talking about the same thing. The first four angels are the angels that were held back until the 144,000 were sealed. This is critical. The 144,000 are sealed before any of the trumpets blow. So we can see that here. Trumpets are down here. The 144 speak for Jesus. And it says, I will appoint my two witnesses, and they will prophesy. That, in other words, they will speak for Jesus for 1,260 days, using a day for a year principle. Now here again, I'm using something that most people don't use. Most Bible students don't understand that prophecy has two different time formulas. Sometimes a day equals a year, sometimes a day equals a day, depending upon whether the prophecy falls within the Jubilee calendar. I have videos on this. If it falls within the Jubilee calendar, then a day equals a year. If it's outside of the Jubilee calendar, which the 144,000 are, then a day equals a day in prophecy. So as soon as the 144 are sealed, Jesus said, he swears by him, that's God the Father, who lives forever and ever, there'll be no more delay. Jesus is going to close out this sin problem on earth in 1,335 days. There'll be no more delay. It's going to start. And the seven trumpets are released to sound. So how do we know when this is going to occur? It says in Revelation 8, the angel took the censer out of the sanctuary in heaven, and hurled it on the earth, and there came peals of thunder, rumbling, and flashes of lightning and earthquake. These are the Bible texts that say the wrath of God is released on earth. So on Daniel 12, we read, from the time that the morning and evening daily service, it's not sacrifice, it's service, for corporate atonement shall be taken away, there will be 1,335 days. That's using the day for a day formula. I want to let you know here that there still will be personal atonement possible until the seventh trumpet sounds. So during this, where this little yellow thing is here, corporate atonement is over. But personal atonement is still possible. Revelation 13:5. The beast, that's Babylon, that is the church-state government that is formed and rises from the water, or people, in Revelation 13:1. So the beast is given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies, and to exercise its authority for 42 months or 42 moons. That's how God counts time. So during this time, the saints are persecuted. So the living are tested, and they're going to be persecuted during this time by the beast, which is a church-state government. So let's pause for a second here and look closer at the 42 months that the saints are persecuted. So we're just going to focus in on these two topics here. So Revelation 7:13, then one of the elders asked me, these in white robes, who are they? Where did they come from? And I answered, Sir, you know. Then he said this, he said, these are they who have come out of the great tribulation, out of the 1260 days of persecution. So this is a sort of a rhetorical question. Who are these people in white robes? So people during this time will be persecuted and martyred. So the living saints on earth will be tested during this period, and some of them will be martyred. So here's how this goes, I think. During the 42 moons of the Great Tribulation, everyone, that's 100% of those alive on earth, will be tested for their faith in God. The testing will begin at the start of the 1335 days and will terminate at the seventh trumpet sounding. It's all done when the seventh trumpet sounds. Some will pass the test and be sealed. Some will fail the test and receive the mark of the beast. Some of those that pass will end up as martyrs, and a few will still be alive when Jesus returns. So let's look at this in a little more detail. So 100% of Earth's population will experience the seven trumpets. So at the beginning of this period, 0 will be sealed by God. At the end of this period, everyone will have made a decision for God. Some will have decided for God, and some will have decided against Christ. So during this period of time, as we go along, more and more people will have made up their mind either for Christ or against Christ. So the first 4 trumpets occur at the beginning. So they affect everyone on earth 100%. The 5th, 6th, and 7th trumpet occur later on. At the 5th trumpet, that affects only the fence sitters. And that will affect them for exactly 5 months. I have other videos on this. I go into this in more detail. The sixth trumpet affects both whatever fence sitters will be remain after the fifth trumpet, because the fifth trumpet is going to try to force them either to God's side or to the devil's side. They have to make a decision. They can't sit on the fence. But some of them will still be fence sitters. So the sixth trumpet affects both the remaining fence sitters and all the saints. And this is where the command to kill 1/3 of earth occurs during the sixth trumpet. And finally, the seventh trumpet will sound, and this will indicate that all the saints are sealed. Once we get to this point, everyone will have decided either for or against Christ. And immediately, the next event following the seventh trumpet will be the 7 last plagues. So the fifth trumpet, I said, that was the 5-month one, Revelation 9. And they were told not to harm the grass on the earth. That's the evil angels were told this. Or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. So these are the fence sitters. And they were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. So this is not going to be a fun time for the fence sitters. They're going to be tortured by the devil to come over to his side and the torture stops. Or if they decide for Christ, this torture will also stop. So they're going to be encouraged, if you will, to take a stand. Now the sixth trumpet, when it sounds, and the 4 angels who have been kept ready for this exact moment, this very hour, day, month, and year, were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. So there will be a point in time when God will allow, where he has set, this exact hour, day, month, and year, for these angels to be released to kill 1/3 of mankind. And it will happen during the sixth trumpet. How do you like my animation here? Okay, this is one that a lot of people ask about. What about this 1290 days? So from the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished, that's at the beginning of this 1335 days, and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1290 days. Well, the abomination that causes desolation will be a universal death decree issued by the devil that will be against all the saints on earth. He is going to be fed up. So during this, I'm going to cover this on my next video. During the 7 last plagues, there will be nothing that the devil can do to stop these plagues or to lessen them or to give anyone comfort in them. So what does he do? He issues a death decree to all the saints. Now, this is not so bad in a way, because none of the saints will be harmed by it at this point. They're all sealed by God, and there is no further benefit for any of the saints to be martyrs. Everyone has passed the probation. It's ended. We're in here into the 7 last plagues. That's when the death decree occurs, but none of the saints will be hurt or killed. So let's just read this seventh trumpet a little bit. And the 7th angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven which said, "The kingdom of the world has become," now note the past tense, has become the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah, and he, Jesus, will reign forever and ever, for the great battle for man's souls is over. So when the 7th trumpet sounds, the battle is over. Everyone has decided either for Jesus or against. And the 24 elders who were seated on their thrones before God fell on their face and worshiped God, saying, "We give thanks to you, O God Almighty, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and will show your power by the bowls being poured out now, and have begun to reign." And the nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time has come for judging the dead and rewarding the servants, the prophets, and your people, who revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroyed the earth. The time for soul winning is over. Everyone has chosen sides. Release the 7 bowls on earth. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant, meaning that all the saints on earth are now sealed and have been given by God Adam's pre-fall sinless nature. That's a gift from God. God has given everyone Adam's pre-fall sinless nature. And there came flashes of lightning and rumblings and pearls of thunder, an earthquake and severe hailstorm. That's the 7th trumpet. So here are my conclusions. God is bringing the 6,000 years of sin on earth to a rapid closure in just a few years. I don't know when, but it's a few years. The 7th trumpet judgments are God's custom-made plagues to quickly test everyone on earth. He's going to separate the sheep from the goats in this 3.5-year period. Actually, 42 moons. So the people alive during the 7 trumpet judgments will have a special test of their faith. Those that pass will get God's seals. God will seal them. The 7 trumpets are also being used by God to let the devil have his full way on earth, to expose the devil's evil ways for all to see. And finally, the 7 plagues, that's the 7 bowls, it's called in Revelation, are God's special wrath that he pours out for those who have just persecuted his saints. So these are my overall conclusions to this study today. So I hope you've received a blessing from the study. And if you happen to view these on YouTube, please leave a comment if you want. And if you feel they're good videos, you could like them. Again, I want to thank you for taking time to view this video. And remember that God loves you very much. Thanks again.